Breaking news tonight, President Biden holding a national moment of silence at the White House as America marks a grim milestone. The U.S. surpassing a staggering 500,000 deaths from COVID, a year into the pandemic. More American deaths than World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined. It comes as many vaccination sites remain shut down. How soon will the rollout get back on track after extreme weather? Dozens of Boeing 777s grounded after that midair emergency, the engine exploding, showering debris on neighborhoods below. The clue investigators are now focused on. The humanitarian crisis in Texas entering a new week. The long lines, millions still without clean water, and the 11-year-old who died from suspected hypothermia. The massive lawsuit filed by his family. President Biden's nominee for Attorney General on the hot seat. What Merrick Garland says will be his top priority if confirmed. The investigation into the death of Elijah McClain, what it finds police and paramedics did wrong. Our week-long series, State of the Struggle, 1 year since the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. His mother talks with us about her fight for justice. And my conversation with the amazing young woman who just made history at sea.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening. In a year of immeasurable grief, finally today, a moment to pause as a nation to reflect on those we've lost, now topping 500,000. Just a short time ago, President Biden leading Americans in a moment of silence. And in that silence, a somber reminder of the voices and the laughs we will never hear again. It's been a year of tough lessons, miscalculations, unhelpful distractions, but also remarkable advances that tonight leave us at the threshold of real hope. Hospitalizations down to just over 56,000, and over 44 million have received at least one vaccine dose. But there are hurdles still ahead. Miguel Almaguer now with the latest.
Tonight, the president, with the enormity of the death toll on his shoulders, paused to remember the 500,000 Americans who have lost their lives to the virus. Grandparents, mothers and fathers, even children. More fatalities from the year-long pandemic than the number of Americans who died on the battlefield in World War I, World War II, and Vietnam combined.
The people we lost were extraordinary. They spanned generations, but just like that, so many of them took their final breath alone in America.
As our nation loses far too many every day, the struggle to vaccinate continues.
I think that's crazy that they don't have more vaccine.
By midweek, authorities say they will have caught up for the 6 million doses delayed because of winter weather. Still, super sites like San Diego's Petco Park, nowhere near the storm, remain shuttered because there is no supply. In Los Angeles County, where 1 in 500 people have died from COVID, major vaccination sites are closed today. Vaccines can save lives if you can get one. While authorities warn now is not the time to be complacent, movie theaters in New York can soon reopen at 25% capacity as the NCAA announces March Madness with fans will take place next month. As the nation tries to move forward, families like the Lopez's will always look back. Danny, a father of 7, was married 33 years, but in 2 months, the virus stole his life.
I wasn't by his side when he needed me the most.
Tonight, for the families of 500,000 Americans, life will forever be changed. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
And it's more than just loss and grief. Will there be additional financial relief coming for Americans through all this? Democrats are looking to pass another COVID relief package soon, while Republicans insist the $1.9 trillion price tag is too steep. Our Jeff Bennett is following it. Jeff, where do things stand?
Lester, Democrats are pushing for a vote in the full House this week on the president's plan, with or without Republican support. The legislation includes billions to help schools reopen safely, extends unemployment benefits at $400 a week, and sends those direct payments of $1,400 to Americans who qualify. It also calls for a gradual increase in the minimum wage, up to $15 an hour after 4 years. There are questions, though, about whether that wage hike makes it through the Senate. Republicans are balking at the plan's overall price tag, $1.9 trillion, but President Biden is pushing back, saying the cost reflects the severity of the need. Lester?
All right, Jeff, thanks. Tonight, more than 120 Boeing 777s are grounded, all with the same type of engine that exploded on that United flight outside of Denver on Saturday. Tom Costello now with the concerns and the investigation.
It was just after 1 p.m. Saturday when the 911 calls began flooding in.
Oh, my God.
We got debris falling everywhere.
Yeah, it almost landed on my head.
Overhead at 13,000 feet.
Mayday aircraft just experienced a engine failure, needed to turn immediately.
The engine on a United 777 headed for Honolulu was on fire and coming apart, with huge pieces falling across the Denver suburb of Broomfield, smashing through a roof, crushing a truck, and raining down onto a soccer field.
All of a sudden, I heard a big boom, and the house shook.
I see right away it's the front end of an airplane engine.
Amazingly, no one was hit. Demetrius Smith was one of 241 people on board the plane. He began texting friends.
I wanted to let them know that I loved them, and this would probably be the last time that they heard from me. I was prepared to tell them goodbye.
Yay! Thankfully, Flight 328 landed safely. NTSB investigators say they found 2 broken engine fan blades, leading to a rare but potentially catastrophic engine failure. An uncontained engine failure is when the fan blades literally rip apart in flight and tear through the engine casing or cowling. But this has happened twice before. In 2018, a cracked fan blade on another United 777 caused the engine to come apart. Last December, it happened on a Japan Airlines 777. 3 years ago, a passenger on a Southwest 737 was killed when fan blades on a different engine came apart, shattering a window and pulling the passenger from her seat. Investigators determined routine inspections had missed previous cracking. Now the FAA is ordering similar inspections for the 777.
There could be a systemic problem with the fan blades on this engine. We've had our 3 events now.
In the U.S., only United is affected, with 24 planes now grounded. Engine maker Pratt & Whitney says it's cooperating.
Tom, we should make the point. It's not uncommon for fan blades to develop cracks, but the inspections are supposed to catch those, aren't they?
Yeah, that's right. So the question is whether these unique hollow fan blades are more prone to cracking, and if so, how do you detect those cracks, Lester?
All right, Tom, thanks. The hardship goes on for millions in Texas this evening while power is back up for many. Clean drinking water is still a huge problem. Morgan Chesky is there for us.
1 week in Texas, and the snowy scene's now swapped with a sad reality. Lines of cars filled with hungry families, desperate for help.
We had to actually use a stove to heat the house. I know they said not to do that, but that's the only way we survive.
Charles Oliver got his power back, but today waited hours for water.
What does this mean to you?
It means I can live another day.
Those in need flooding food banks. This one able to help 3,000 families in just a few hours. But when you stop and look at the entire state, right now more than 8 million people in Texas still don't have access to clean drinking water.
We're going to find out what happened. We're going to fix it, and we're going to do all we can so this never happens again.
State leaders promising change and solutions for sky-high energy bills. The governor restricting companies from cutting off power if a customer can't pay. Scott Willoughby signed up with a provider not knowing his rate was tied to the market. So when the power supply went down, he says his $200 bill exploded to nearly $17,000.
I didn't read all the fine print. I didn't look at the worst case scenario.
Tragedy striking Houston. Video shows Christian Pineda playing the day before he died of suspected hypothermia after his family's mobile home lost power. The Pinedas now suing ERCOT, which runs the state power grid, for gross negligence.
This is a family that really, really loved their child and did everything they could to protect their child. And Texas failed them.
Tonight, the agency responding. Our thoughts are with all Texans who have and are suffering due to this past week. We are confident our grid operators made the right choice to avoid a statewide blackout.
And tonight, federal investigators announcing 2 new inquiries triggered by this massive winter storm. The first, examining the natural gas and power market for potential wrongdoing. The second, an all-out examination of the U.S. electric grid, searching for any vulnerabilities related to extreme weather or climate change. Lester?
Morgan Chesky tonight. Thank you. In just 60 seconds, our series State of the Struggle on Racial Justice. A year after his death, we speak to Ahmaud Arbery's mother and a way to potentially get more vaccine to people. So why isn't it being implemented? At his confirmation hearing, President Biden's nominee for Attorney General, Merrick Garland, said his top priority will be investigating the riot at the Capitol. Here's Pete Williams with that.
Merrick Garland says the siege at the Capitol shows that violent extremism is more of a threat now than it was 26 years ago when the Oklahoma City Federal Building was bombed, and Garland led that federal prosecution. He says the Capitol investigation will range beyond the actual rioters.
We begin with the people on the ground, and we work our way up to those who are involved and further involved.
Garland pledged to make sure the White House and politics don't interfere with investigations, including the special counsel's inquiry into the FBI's investigation of the Trump campaign and the tax investigation of the president's son, Hunter.
I would not have taken this job if I thought that politics would have any influence over prosecutions and investigations.
On other issues, he called the Trump child separation policy shameful and said he couldn't think of anything worse. While he rejected any calls to defund the police, he said police departments should be investigated if they show a pattern of violating civil rights. And he got emotional, recalling how the U.S. welcomed his grandparents who fled anti-Semitism in Russia.
The country took us in, protected us. And I feel an obligation to the country to pay back.
Also today, the Supreme Court gave Donald Trump a big loss, refusing to block a New York grand jury from getting his personal and corporate tax returns going back 8 years. He has no other legal options, so his accountants will begin handing them over in a matter of days. Lester?
Pete Williams in our Washington newsroom. Thanks. In Colorado, an independent investigation into the death of Elijah McClain found critical failures by the Aurora Police Department. And tonight, McClain's father is speaking to our Gabe Gutierrez.
Stop. Stop. I have a right to stop you because you're being suspicious.
The body camera video of Elijah McClain's deadly encounter with Aurora, Colorado police in 2019 later sparked nationwide protests. Police had gotten a call about a suspicious man wearing a mask.
I am an introvert.
He died after officers tackled him, placed him in a neck hold, and sedated him. At the time, police said he'd fought back when confronted.
I can't breathe correctly.
In a newly released report, a panel of experts appointed by the city council now says that neither the caller nor any of the officers involved identified a crime that McClain was suspected of committing, and that the EMS responders gave him a grossly inaccurate and inflated amount of the sedative ketamine. The report also found that the post-event investigation was flawed because the department failed to ask basic critical questions about the justification for the use of force. For Elijah McClain's father, today's report reinforces a central question.
Did this have to happen?
No, it didn't. If they would have just treated him like a human and talked to him.
The panel recommended the police department review its use of force training, but McClain's family also wants the officers involved to be fired and arrested.
It's time for these officers to take accountability for what happened so that this never happens to anybody else.
No comment today from the Aurora Police Department. McClain would have turned 25 this week. Lester?
All right, Gabe, thank you. Now to our new week-long series, State of the Struggle, examining how our country is grappling with racial injustice. 1 year after the death of Ahmaud Arbery inspired a movement, his mother is speaking to Blaine Alexander.
This is life for Wanda Cooper Jones. Her days filled with pictures, tributes, memories of her son, Ahmaud Arbery.
You can't move on. I cannot. I try. But when I laid Ahmaud to rest back last February, a part of me left also. And it's painful.
Harder still, she says, as new pieces of evidence have emerged in the months since her son was killed. Among them, body camera video showing the crucial moments after he was shot.
He was still lying there awake, alive, moving his head and his leg. It replays in my mind each and every day.
His family says the 25-year-old was out for a jog a year ago. He was confronted by two white neighbors, Gregory and Travis McMichael, then shot 3 times. They, along with a third man, William Roddy Bryan, who filmed the incident, have all been charged with murder. Their attorneys claim the shooting was justified. At the time, Gregory McMichael told police they wanted to question Arbery about recent break-ins and that he tried to wrestle the shotgun away. All 3 men have pleaded not guilty.
No justice! No peace!
Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, 3 deaths launching a movement last summer around racial injustice. A year later, still no trial date set. The case is in the hands of a new DA. In the wake of Arbery's death, Georgia has passed a hate crime law, previously one of just 4 states that did not have one.
So it's every day for you. Literally every day.
But Cooper Jones says she thinks the Biden administration will help heal America's racial divide. Last month, the president signed an executive order declaring racial equity a government priority.
And I firmly believe the nation is ready to change.
Arbery's mother has faith.
I'm hoping, I pray, because I have another son, I have grandsons. I pray.
Despite her unspeakable heartache, still hope. Blaine Alexander, NBC News, Augusta, Georgia.
All right, a short break, and then we're back with controversy over potentially wasted vaccines. As Americans struggle to get the COVID vaccine, health workers are frustrated by thousands of potential doses thrown away. Katie Beck explains.
Shots go into arms 4,000 times a day at the Inova Vaccine Clinic in Fairfax, Virginia. For many, a dose of relief.
This is the happiest place on earth.
But while the clinic's pharmacy team hustles to keep up with demand, they're flagging a flaw in the process.
From the very first day, we've noticed that there was waste left in the individual vials.
Residual vaccine left in vials and forced to be thrown out. A single vial of Pfizer vaccine used here yields 6 full doses, but pharmacists say there's often a half dose left, which under FDA rules cannot be used.
They're just going in the garbage.
Yes. They are. The pharmacists here who prepared the shots decided to measure how much is being wasted. First, pooling residual liquid in 10 vials, then 100. They found the discarded vials yielded 8 to 10% more vaccine.
Ultimately, when there are enough vaccines, wasting some at the bottom won't matter. But right now, we are millions of doses short.
In this location alone, that would be 400 additional doses daily. Nationally, it could mean tens of thousands more shots in arms every day.
Oh, it's huge. It's for such a scarce resource. It's significant. And currently, we're just throwing those out at the end of the day.
Those vials end up here in the basement. Most of them have visible amounts of vaccine still left inside. And pharmacists estimate that if combined, this rack alone could come up with somewhere between 10 and 15,000 doses. Instead of being given out, they have to be thrown out. The FDA says its rule against pooling COVID vaccine is an infection control measure needed for vaccines made without a preservative, saying cross-contamination using the same needle and syringe has occurred with other medications when this practice was utilized, causing serious bacterial infections. But pharmacists say there are already sterile protocols in place, and they are routinely allowed to pool other drugs like antibiotics, chemotherapy drugs, even the flu shot. They're urging the FDA to change its position.
It's heartbreaking. It makes me sick to my stomach, knowing how many people still need the vaccine.
Many still waiting their turn without time or vaccine to spare. Katie Beck, NBC News, Fairfax, Virginia.
And for help scheduling an appointment, visit the Plan Your Vaccine tool on our website. Also tonight, NASA releasing new video of the Perseverance rover touching down on Mars. Take a look at this, the Triumph captured from several camera angles. The rover also sent back audio of wind. That's the first sound recorded on the Mars surface. And a childhood cancer survivor revealed she'll be part of the first all-civilian space mission. Haley Arsenault, a physician's assistant at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, lost part of her leg to cancer when she was 10 and was treated at St. Jude. She'll join 3 others on the SpaceX flight later this year.
I think that this mission is going to allow these kids to look towards the future and just show them what's possible, and that survivorship can look like accomplished dreams.
The mission will try to raise $200 million for St. Jude. And next for us tonight, making history, crossing the ocean. Finally, crossing the Atlantic the hard way. A young British woman back on dry land after rowing her way to distinction. It's a test of strength and spirit, and Jasmine Harrison aced it. At 21, the youngest woman to row solo across any ocean.
Well done, Jasmine.
How do you feel after a journey like this?
I feel amazing.
The English swim instructor completed her 3,000-mile row across the Atlantic Saturday in 70 days, 3 hours, and 48 minutes. You really didn't have a lot of rowing background.
I didn't feel like the actual rowing was the challenge. It was battling the different conditions, your mental game, just that fatigue.
She had a few close calls, nearly colliding with a ship, and her 500-pound boat capsized twice.
The worst capsize I had, I was actually in the cabin. I have 2 satellite phones. One was so I could contact the safety officers. The other one is so I can contact anybody else.
What did you miss the most?
I missed my dogs at home, and I missed good food.
Harrison says one incredible moment came early on, a whale of an encounter.
This is the most exciting thing.
Her message now:
I want you to go and do something amazing too. A small achievement, you be inspired, see how far you can stretch yourself.
Pretty amazing. By the way, that voyage started in the Canary Islands and ended in Antigua. That's Nightly News for this Monday. Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night.